This is your man who did it. Your boy in the corner you go to, Mr. Clutch. This is another episode of Oh How They Forgot, Part 3. Listening to all these grown boys complain about not seeing their families the past couple of weeks, which I do understand. And it is necessary, especially for those who have sick children, might have some immune system issues. Some of these young dudes might have marriage counseling issues. Bear with me, because I'm about to put on my turn signal. I'm driving, y'all. Or other relationship barriers, such as infidelity, abuse, man, you name it, man. They are humans. They have feelings, natural feelings. Their contracts ain't so natural, and I'm not coming at it as a hater or some type of person who might be jealous by any means, because that's not the case. However, this is their job, y'all. So with them being spoiled brats, they have to understand that sometimes, just maybe, they have to sacrifice their time and effort. That's not the reason why I'm talking about this subject. It's just very prevalent to the story that I'm gonna drop on y'all, how they forgot about it. Y'all remember when Kobe Bryant was accused of rape? And how his coach was in the same vicinity, but that's another story for another time. He kind of bailed on him. Some of his teammates never really reached out because he had pretty much burned all of his bridges with some of his teammates. So some of his issues were self-inflicted. Kobe Bean, that is. But then something happened as years went on with Denver, as well as Utah. He would later on, after Shaq's departure and the team got broken up and he had new teammates such as Paul Gasol, Lamar Odom, y'all know, Andrew Bynum. When he would go to Denver, he would hear all kind of malicious things over the airways. Some of those great Pepsi Center, or whatever the hell they're called, fans would be chanting things in regards to his accusations. Just horrific, man. Calling him everything but a child of God. My bad, y'all. I had to answer that phone call. My fault. So, back to the story. Or more importantly, back to the information. Yeah, Kobe Bryant heard everything, man. From the punk janitors to some of the teammates. The media was giving it to him. And people in the Denver arena was chanting malicious things. I remember it like it was yesterday. That dude said playing basketball was his relief, his stress reliever from everything that he was going through, y'all. Believe it or not, he was on trial. And when he could hoop, that's when he would try to forget things. But then when he came back to play them in the playoffs, it fueled his fire, the crazy stuff they were saying. But then we could speed it up to his teammate, Derek Fisher, who was a backup when he first came in the league in '96, but then he became a starter. And believe it or not, I want to say Kobe's go-to, his clutch, his bulldog, Derek Fisher. If you remember when he went to Utah for that little stint, then he came back. He had to have surgery, not he, but his twins. He had twins, twin daughters. If I'm wrong, you brothers feel free to correct me. I'm not always right, I do make mistakes. This type of information takes time and effort. And if I didn't say it before, I'll say it again, time. So that's why I salute all you brothers. Like, face PC gaming and Too Raw for TV and Welcome to HD TV. You dudes put in a lot of time, I could tell, with your research and, more importantly, the information and the content that y'all put out. That's why people need to not poo-poo it, because it's your time and your effort. You could tell that you guys have fun with it, but I don't want to sidetrack. Back to Derek Fisher. If y'all remember, there was fans saying things when Derek Fisher came back, and that's what pissed Kobe off. Excuse my language. Kobe got hot because they turned on the Utah Jazz, the fans, some of the people in the franchise, over a daggone game. We talking about his babies, man. But once again, these guys in the bubble, translating to today, that is, these guys in the bubble keep moaning and groaning about being away and not being able to go home. Well, maybe that's why the Clippers got bounced, because they couldn't multitask. There are regular civilians every day that's in power plants or doing some whack security job or flipping burgers, working at a grocery store, working with bad kids like I do sometimes, even though I love it. Hairdressers, barbers. Some people out here selling no-way products. Like the, what was that? What movie was that? Are you selling no-way products? It'll come to me, man. But anyhow, insurance at the door. Some people work for religious groups like the Jehovah's Witnesses. Y'all grown men are crying about the bubble. Nah, some of y'all just don't love the game. And sticking with Kobe Bean. Do you guys remember, which is kind of on a deeper level, what I'm about to go into? Kobe Bryant used to go to Orlando with his family. I believe he only had 2 daughters at the time to train. Again, do y'all research. Kobe Bryant goes to Orlando with his family, but he would find a couple hours a day where they would give him, I don't know if it was necessarily keys or some type of key card. Somebody with access obviously would allow him to use Orlando's facility to train. The funny thing about that is that was either after his 4th ring or on pace to get his 4th ring. I'm not one of those people that's trying to connect the dots, but it's naturally. I believe a lot of men nowadays, they don't want to face the music and they dismiss their own nerves sometimes by putting the dots together. Like, yo, man, it's crazy how LeBron's in the bubble playing for the Lakers and they pushing for his 4th ring. Wink, wink. Yeah, I do believe they try to align those 2 stars together. And if you guys are aware, there is a lot of hoopla and a lot of different narratives around the chicanery of the higher power and the elites that have coordinated such things as crazy hoax, not necessarily hoax, deaths, arranged esoteric removals, such as Kobe Bryant's and the late Prince and Michael Jackson. But I'll save that type of information for another time. But let's just stick to how they forgot. Alright, so that's what Kobe. Alright, Kobe Bryant would go to Orlando to train. While he was on vacation. Now, for granted, he was on vacation. These brothers may feel like they're on some type of journey. Maybe they're like on a tour, like I guess if they're war veterans. I don't know. But in the end, they're acting as if they're not being paid. They're not being told what to do to a certain degree. Even all of the protests and what not to wear, because if that was the case, look at Jimmy Butler's situation. He said he didn't want to put nothing on him. Or they're like, oh, you got to put something. You look at LeBron, which I'm trying to not really mention that dude in this video because I feel like he gets too much conversation. Too much topics are about him. And I'm guilty of that. I cannot lie. I do not like the monster behind him. Those of you who are my subscribers, pardon me. Y'all know that I don't dig him, but I really hate the people behind him that are pushing the GOAT argument, that are pushing him to be some Ali or some Christ-like figure. Man, if you don't get out my face, man, please.
You better ask somebody. So we're going to go a little further about how they forgot with today's NBA players and just maybe 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, who they're trying to push off into oblivion for whatever reason. All right, so bear with me. So we're going to start off with a guy whose career has been held with kid gloves since he's arrived in the 2016-17 season. None other than Ben Simmons. I'm not sure if the guy's a point guard. I know right before he went down this year, they had switched his position to power forward. But he can handle the ball. He's cut from the same cloth as Harden, James in the Laker uniform, Luka Doncic, Russell Westbrook, that top of the key, everybody sprint to the corner while I dribble for 22 and a half seconds, then I pass it to you or I go to the hole to dunk. Foul shots is suspect. Jay is not only broke, at the moment Jay needs to be reinvented. Jay being his jumper. However, all that being said, his ceiling is still very high because he's still a young player. He only did 1 year at LSU. But how soon they forgot, man. That's the reason why the title of this video /rant/history is so prevalent to today, because with the lack of men in the households, a lot of these young boys ain't getting that G knowledge from their uncles, their grandfathers. Shoot, some of they older brothers just don't got time because they're caught up in the moment. I'm looking at Ben Simmons, and he had made some great defensive plays. This is before he got hurt, obviously. And then I go to the barbershop, and my pops tells me that one of them knuckleheads told him Ben Simmons is better than Magic Johnson. So, how soon they skip generation after another generation to go all the way back to the modern era, that being Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. It is blasphemy, and the young man is 2 years younger than me, and I'm 35, y'all. I'm gonna just tell y'all. So homie's 33, and obviously he must be somewhat on the mental spectrum. Maybe he's schizo or some type of mental retardation, because how are you going to go to Magic, which is just insane, and skip past Anthony Penny Hardaway? So I did the tell of the tape, Ben Simmons' first 4 years and Penny's first 4 years. Penny been to a couple All-Star games, but he also went to the finals. He could have played a lot better. He was already in movies, and he was threatening who we all believe is the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan's throne. Obviously, he was years away, and no one could see that he was going to be injury prone, and then that would be the cause of his demise athletically. However, if you were there, if you're over 30, you should have been paying attention. Penny was the great director of that Magic team in the early 90s. He could play the two. He was a natural one, that being point guard. He could also watch small forwards. And if you wasn't strong in the lower body or the core, he could watch some of your fours, especially today. Ben Simmons is 40 to 50 pounds heavier than Penny. About 3.5 inches taller. Penny's listed at 6'7", but I've heard people say he's at least 6'8". Some even said he was stretching 6'9", but I think Penny without shoes on is about a good 6'7.5". Ben Simmons without shoes is about 6'10", so he's damn near a 7-footer, pardon me. But how you gonna go to Magic, yo? And he's not even better than Penny. I mean, if you just look at some of these highlights, just the eye test should tell you off the rip. If Penny was playing today, not only would Clutch Sports be on his sack, Clutch Sports would be asking him if he wanted a piece of the organization. Because I'm not going to mention that guy. He is not a better floor general than Penny Hardaway. Okay? We could easily go to off the court issues, that being the business management, some of questionable decisions that Ben Simmons had made. But we just gonna keep it on the court because he's a victim of the Kardashian witch coven. But that's another video for another time. We just talking about game for game. If you come into the hoop court, regardless what city you may be from or suburb, you're taking Anthony Penny Hardaway all day. Just strictly off of the pace. Now remind you, he was in the hand checking era. He was right after the bad boy Pistons kind of was broken up, and he was in the heart of the Knicks Miami Heat feuds, and Jordan obviously when he came back from early retirement, when he came back from baseball, that Bulls dynasty. So Penny was in the heart of some vicious defensive teams, and he showed out. He kept Michael and Scottie on their toes. But eventually he and Shaq, who's another attention whore, could not see eye to eye, whether they like it or not. And obviously I encourage you young folks to watch Magic Moment. I believe it's called 30 for 30. And it can go more into detail for you to understand why it did not work out. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, please do not let these people lie to you. How they forgot Penny Hardaway, it boggles me. So it's up to guys like myself and people that's on YouTube and other platforms, man, to let the youngins know, man, let me tell you something. People was getting starter jackets and starter, back then, fitteds and some snapbacks just because of Penny, let alone Shaq. Shaq was kind of like the main attraction because you can't miss him, and Shaq was a freak. We never seen anything like it. Regardless of them telling you about Zion Williamson, the phenom that's in New Orleans, I'll do a video on him one time, or another time, excuse me. Shaq was like that, but Penny was something that I think the NBA was enjoying to see and develop because Magic Johnson was a household name, and before even Air Jordan, Magic Johnson was the NBA's baby. So Penny being humble, similar to Kawhi, and real laid back was one of his main attractions that helped him get fans and people gravitated towards him. But then on the other end, on that court, he played like Magic, and there was actually times he looked like Michael Jordan. He and Grant Hill both, their ceilings was very high. And I could compare Grant Hill to Ben Simmons also, and it's not even close. And the reason why I'm picking on Ben right now is because I feel like he has a lot of work to do. But at the same time, the media will make it seem like in the next couple of years, he's just this person we never seen. When he first came out of LSU, they was calling him the next, and he's a future king. And I've heard fools even say it like, man, Ben Simmons is going to be this and that. Don't be surprised if he is an MVP candidate next year. Don't be surprised if you see the same methodical, lethargic, nonchalant Ben Simmons who doesn't believe he has to work hard, and now that he got a little muscle tone, he's satisfied and he'll be on the trading block. But moving on, now we go to my man Jimmy Butler, who I'm very impressed. And I'm not a fan of any man, because fan is short for fanatic, so I'm not going to cry or rip up my shirt or punch holes in the wall if Miami doesn't get it done. But the 4 remaining teams left in the bubble for me would be Miami 1, Boston 2, which is crazy. 3 would be Denver, and I just don't want to see the Lakers win. Even though I was a Laker fan as a child when I was a boy. Now I try my best not to really give too much thought to what I see going out there in the Pacific. But Jimmy Butler, man, what he is doing right now takes me back to a player that was controversial, very explosive, and played on both sides of the ball, but was somewhat uncoachable, that being Latrell Sprewell. Let me tell y'all something, man. What Spree and Allen Houston and them boys did with that New York Knicks team after the strike, and how they came up short to the San Antonio Spurs, this is kind of debatable and controversial. Maybe they shouldn't have played Pat Ewing so many minutes, whatever. What Spree and them did, Spreewell that is similar to what Jimmy Butler's doing. And I kept looking at Jimmy Butler like, man, Jimmy Butler's a throwback. Some days he'll have 14, other days he'll have 40. Some days he'll watch a forward, some days he'll be like the lead guard dog, like a Doberman, right there at the daggone front door, watching your point guard. He's challenged his teammates in Philly. He called out Big Cat and the rest of them clowns in the Minnesota Timberwolves organization. That's similar to Spree. Spree played for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Spree started off with the Golden State Warriors. And man, he was a dog. So, in conclusion, man, because I know I've been going a long time today, it's up to us. And when I say us, I'm just talking to men and women, but mainly I say my platform is for mature men who have like minds but different takes, if that makes sense. Like minds but different takes. I may not always agree with some of you brothers who's putting out the dope content, and some of your takes might miss me and I may disagree, but that's what makes the world go around. But what I cannot take, especially right now in these last days, I do believe the way that this society is circling the drain. Stop letting these fools on TV, these nerds, these geeks, these analytic hype men, tell our children, and when I say our children, I'm talking about people in the community that's under probably 25, about how dope it is today, and we never seen this and that, and there will never be another guy, and all this. Yo, check them at the door. Someone had to check us at the door when we saw Iron Mike Tyson, when we saw a prime Deion, even though I don't think we've seen another Deion Sanders. When we saw Barry Sanders, I had to listen to people tell me about Gale Sayers. When I started to see Kobe Bryant, Froby, emerging into this great superstar, I had to go back and be like, nah, Penny was nice too. So health was somewhat good to Kobe, because if he would have got hurt like he did at the end of his career, towards the beginning stages, he would have been a lot like Penny Hardaway or a lot like Derrick Rose. So sometimes it's just in the deck of cards, and the Most High is the one is supposed to be in charge of your steps, man. So, you know what I mean? To each his own. But what we cannot do, back to the reason why I'm making this video, we cannot keep letting people tell our people who to root for and who not to. Eye test is very important. Stats is actually important. But nevertheless, please check these fools' resumes on TV. Check your sources. Receipts, checks and balances, baby. Guns and butter. You know what I mean? Period. Like, I'm looking at these Nick Rice and Shannon Sharps, and even on the other networks like Max and Stephen A. They're entertaining, but they have a role to play. It's script. So if you're not really a student of the game, that being the three major sports, get the hell off the mic, man. Because that's one of the things that I appreciate with some of you brothers that I mentioned earlier. And I try my best to always send a shout out. Man, if it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't be doing this today. So bless up, man, and continue the great work. This is your man who did it. Stay strong, stay wise, stay vigilant. I'm praying for all y'all, man. Peace.